Church and state are linked. There are still 20-odd bishops sit in the House of Lords, the higher chamber in the British Parliament.
So you have a national religion.
We do indeed. And it's been pretty much the kiss of death of vibrant Christianity in Britain. Basically, the separation of church and state is essential. And the reason I would say this is that the link between church and state means that the great number of people who may have a religious belief but are not trained theologians are going sooner or later to equate the actions of the state with the actions of the church and the teachings of the church. That's certainly what happens in Britain. I mean, we had an appalling situation prior to Tony Blair's reforms whereby the Prime Minister appointed the Archbishop of Canterbury and the bishops. On advice, but I mean the previous Archbishop of Canterbury, George Carey, was always known as Margaret Thatcher's revenge on the Church of England, because the previous Archbishop had been an outspoken opponent of her social policies. And
so the prior the Archbishop and the other people in the hierarchy had some obligation to the government who had appointed them.
Yes, I think the fundamentalist religious authorities in America see it as a one-way street. They think, this will give us this will give us influence into government. But of course it's a two-way street. Government is also going to want influence over the religious the freedom of the people in various different ways, shapes and forms.
Exactly. It works both ways.
And there will be times where they want to speak out about national policy, and they'll find that their hands have been tied behind their back, or that all moral authority has been taken away from them because they have spoken with the government so many times.
Now, it is a fact that in this country there have been violations of this separation of church and
undoubtedly,
state, which still stand, and it may sound simplistic, but we still have "In God We Trust" on the currency. They inserted into the Pledge of Allegiance "Under God," which had not been there previously, and these things remain. Now, one thing which just came up recently, which our organization took a stand on, is the proclamation by the United States Congress of a National Day of Prayer. Now, how could anyone say that if the Congress declares a National Day of Prayer, that is not an involvement of government with religion? And now, this was established by an act of Congress in 1952. That's over 50 years ago. And it was set in 1988. It was set to be annually on the first Thursday in May. Now, the secular groups around, and by the way, that National Day of Prayer is administered by a by a task force. And on the National Day of Prayer official website, the task force and that's administered by Shirley Dobson, who is the wife of James Dobson, who heads the focus on the family group, which is very, very fundamentalist,
bigoted.
Thank you for the word. But on their official website, this task force requires that volunteer coordinators agree to a lengthy belief statement that begins, quote, "I believe that the Holy Bible is the inerrant word of the living God. I believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God and the only one by which I can obtain salvation." Now, that leaves out Jews, Muslims, atheists. It leaves a lot of people out. Most people don't know that National Day. It
leaves quite a few Christians out as well, I might add.
Thank you. It is a very limiting thing. Well, so the various secular groups around the country, some years back, have established what is called a National Day of Reason as a parallel event on the same first Thursday of May each year. And so our group certainly supports a National Day of Reason. One of the things that we have done in the past, and again this year, is to get a mayoral proclamation for this day, and I'd like to tell you what it says. This one is for this year. It says, "Be it known that Mayor C. Ray Nagin, City of New Orleans, has this day proclaimed a special day of honor bestowed upon a national day of reason, encouraging all citizens, residents, and visitors in observing this day and focusing upon the employment of reason, critical thought, the scientific method, and free inquiry to the resolution of human problems and for the welfare of humankind. Now, how can anyone disagree with that?
Well, that's unarguable, unlike the other position. A day of reason is certainly nothing I would have any problems with whatsoever. I would have a problem with a imposed national day of prayer coming from the legislature. And in Britain, the weird thing is, that, ironically, that in Britain, which has the church-state connection, all these things would be inconceivable, absolutely inconceivable, mostly because of the multicultural creed of the United Kingdom. There are so many different groups, religious groups, non-religious groups, ethnic groups now living in the United Kingdom. London, I believe, has more languages spoken than any other city on earth now. That it's inconceivable that anything could be imposed from above like that. And in fact, Prince Charles, although when he becomes king he's supposedly going to be Defender of the Faith, is going to change his title to Defender of the Faiths.
Faiths,
plural.
All right, but that still leaves us atheists out, doesn't it?
Well, I think they think you don't need defending.
All right, well, now there's one, since you support the concept of separation of church and state.
I do.
We have a president, President Bush, who has violated that in many ways, but one that has been of great concern to us and to other groups is the money that he has taken from his taxpayers' funds for what he gives to faith-based organizations. I'm sure you've heard the phrase faith-based organization. I think they coined that phrase because they didn't want to say churches. What is a faith-based organization? He has allocated millions, and I think now it's over billions of dollars to churches and other church-related organizations out of funds from the executive office. Now, here is his justification. The First Amendment says Congress shall enact no laws, that would infringe upon the freedom of religion. And he said it didn't say the president couldn't. That's his justification. And it's my money and your money. It's taxpayers' money. Has your church gotten any of it? And if it's been offered, have you rejected it or what?
No, we haven't got any. And of course, as a church, giving mind to the IRS's position on pastors making political pronouncements, I have no opinion whatsoever on the president otherwise. But I can certainly tell you that I think it would be more advised if it was voluntary organizations, because sometimes a church is the best person or the best organization or the best group to get something done. Yes, it is. At other times it may be your organization. At other times it may be the Red Cross.
Yes, well, but that isn't where this money is going. Now, I know that your group, along with a lot of some other churches and certainly many secular groups, could always use more money.
Absolutely.
I think you qualify to apply for and request some of that faith-based money. Is that something you are going to give consideration to?
We have no plans to as yet.
Well, all right. Okay. Now let's bring this home to the state of Louisiana. And in the state of Louisiana, there are these very powerful organizations which constantly try, among other things, to discredit the natural theory of evolution.
Yes.
And they do it by working through school boards and others, and they lose all the time. When I say lose, lawsuits are filed that says you can't do this. You can't put creationism in a public school science class.
They don't have a
and when it goes to court, they lose, and it costs the school boards money every time. These people never stop. They are presently working through the state legislature. And I don't know if you're familiar